Hello world, this is JWP, J-Board Primo Beats, coming to you live from my bedroom. Check out my website, jwpsite.com, for my social links, latest news and updates, and public offerings. If you'd like to help support what I do, check out my Patreon, JWP Patreon, that's with 2 P's. There's also some exclusive content there, or my GoFundMe, JWP Fund. If you're watching this on YouTube, a like, subscribe, and comment are appreciated. I'll be continuing along with the series I'm doing looking at the Visual VST/I programming book. So we're on to modulated delay effects, Flanger chorus now. This section is aptly named because of the primary building blocks of modulated delay or delay lines, or comb filters, if you prefer, as used in the previous sections. This section pairs them various modulation used generally by low-frequency oscillators. They add depth and stereo breadth to a signal or lend it a distinct flavor. Flanger and chorus are the two main categories of modulated delay effects. The big difference between the two is that Flanger or Flanger thrives on a short delay times, usually less than 20 milliseconds, while chorus usually sweeps across a wider range. Read on to learn more. Conjuring a Flanger. Mixing two signals, one with several milliseconds of variable delay, creates a flanging effect. The two signals are out of phase, notching the frequency spectrum at linearly spaced intervals. As delay time changes, the notches sweep across the frequency spectrum, conjuring a comb filter effect. For more emphasis, the output is often fed back into the input to give rise to sharp resonant peaks in the frequency spectrum. Figure 2.50 is a spectrogram image of a flanger effect on white noise. The light stripes are the notches, the dark stripes are the resonant peaks. So figure 2.50, a spectrogram of a flanger applied to white noise. We see a chart with frequency heading up on the y-axis and time on the x-axis, with a graphic of, it looks like noise, and it has sort of like striped lines going through the noise, and they make two hills. The term flanger was coined in the mid-20th century when two tape machines played the same signal at the same time. An engineer placed a finger on a tape's reel flange, slowing one tape and throwing the two out of sync. When the engineer released the reel, the speed gradually returned to normal, evincing a groovy psychedelic whoosh. Figure 2.51 shows the most rudimentary stereo flanger structure. Each input channel feeds into a delay line, which then mixes with the dry signal and notches the spectrum. The delay time is 0.01 or 10 milliseconds. An oscillator module puts out -5 to +5 volts by default. This setup adds 5 volts to arrive at 0 to 10 to match the input range of the delay 2 module's modulation plug. The level ADJ module scales the output signal, thereby determining modulation depth. The modulation plug's value constantly changes constantly, so be sure to enable the delays interpolate output option. This prevents the dreaded zipper noise and ensures a smoother output signal. This prefab employs a triangle waveform for the LFO. To tweak one oscillator's phase mod plug to go stereo, shifting the two waveforms' phase creates a wide body stereo effect. 5 volts translate to 90 degrees, 10 to 180 degree phase shift. The oscillator's pitch determines the modulation rate. In 1 volt to /octave mode, the voltage equivalent of 0.01 Hz is negative 10.4252 volts, and 10 Hz is negative 0.4594. So the rates plug lower and upper limits stake out the range of 0.01 to 10 Hz. Feedback slider's range is negative 10 to 10 volts to accommodate negative feedback levels. Heads up. For more frequency to voltage conversion rules, see the section follow-up an envelope follower from page 38 onwards, and go low by adding an LFO from page 40 onwards in this book, or the section on voltage conversion and SynthEdit's help. Figure 2.51, a simple stereo flanger. File flanger1.se1. So in figure 2.51, we see an I/O mod coming into 2 delays and an X mix. And those delays are controlled by rate and phase going through oscillator's pitch, and a phase going through one of the phase mod. These are traveling through a level 80J, 2 80Js for stereo, which one is there, rather, both are adjusted, pushed up 5 volts so that the oscillator will reach from 0 to 10, and the level 80Js are controlled by depth. The delay feedback is controlled by a slider feedback, and the X mix controlled by dry wet slider. So we're going to go ahead and build that. So as usual, I'm going to start with previous prefab or previous build, just to incorporate the preset manager here. However, I'm going to remove everything from the previous session and save this as new. And I do believe we're looking at a flanger. Now I just got to remember where I put everything again. All right, so we have flanger1.se1 saved. We could start building the DSP itself, the algorithm. So we'll work backwards here. We'll come in with an IO mod on the back, which come from 2 XMix, which are under modifiers, and XMix. We want 2 of them. And then would feed into that are 2 delays, which come from effects, delay 2. Before that, we have another 2 level 80Js, mistaken the XMix for level 80Js. I'm just going to copy them, but they are in fact XMix. And then 2 oscillators. And some knobs. So it's like 5 knobs. And of course an IO in. We can't copy, we have to directly drag one in, I guess. All right, so let's do some connecting here. So we have, what does that say? Rate. So we want rate, make this one rate. Connect those to pitch. Of course, we have one phase. I believe it's phase. It's called phase. Yep, phase mod. here. And those go to the level 80J input 1. We also have a fixed value of 5 hertz, or 5 volts rather. So I'm just going to say 5. Let's say on here, 5 volt. And then those connect to the level 80J, which they are. Did I get 5 volts into both? Yes. And then we have a control called depth, which goes to the second input. Which go to the delay directly into modulation. And input to signal in, and it looks like it's going straight through out, but in fact it's not. It's going to be. Okay, so let's go left, right, in. And I also just realized I lost my namings for left, right, in. So I'm going to rename these here. We'll go L in and R in. That's why we have to pull the patch automator. However, we'll get the outs happening first. So I'll do this from here. Mix. So this is LR, L out, R out. And then we require the patch automator again. And that can sit in the as the bottom pin. Okay. And then the delay signals go into input A. And the dry into input B. And then we connect our mix. It does in fact look like we're missing feedback here. Okay. Call that feedback. Rather, what is this, wet, dry? Dry, wet. This is feedback. And this is phase. And this is depth. All right, everything looks in order. Go ahead and set up the GUI. Such as it is, there's not much there. Phase, feedback, Try wet on the out. And depth. Right. Move over a bit, get them centered. Looks about right. Sure. Perhaps I can space them out a bit more. All right, so I can go ahead and save that again now that that's done. Move on to the next section here. Adding a waveform selector. Sine and triangle waves are the most two commonly used LFO waveforms. Saw and ramp waves are also see some use, but pulse and noise waveforms are rarely employed for LFOs. You may narrow down oscillator waveform options. The insert examples limiting list choices prefab is an example of how to limit an oscillator's waveform selector options using subcontrol modules. Figure 2.52 maps the structure. So we have a picture here. Figure 2.52, a prefab for limiting choices. And we see, this is likely irrelevant because, yes, I do believe it's a bit different now. We'll see. See if I can find these specific things here. So let's go move this over. And we'll go controls and list entry. Looks like it starts with figure 5.2, a prefab limiting choices. Those list entry, list to bools, bools to list, patch memory list, and then patch memory list out. So we'll see if this is the case here where we can do these things. Actually, I think I did that wrong. Yeah. It's list entry 1. We want that. We want to limit the choices by using subcontrols. I use list entry 4 here. And then that goes to list to bools. Because it does look like it converts here. It says blue. That's not our. It's GUI. This is DSP. So we're going list entry, list. However, I'm not sure if it's backwards. I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. Patch memory list out. There is no list out. There's only list. Okay, so like this, and then we'll conversion here. We'll plug this in first because that'll give us our list. And then we want to remove parts of that list, right? Because we can't use a patch memory list with a DSP. So I think it is backwards. Older modules, right? Okay, so integer to bools, I believe. And then bools to integer. And from there, we bring in our choices, but they don't generate, so we have to look. So we have what in our list here? We want, I'm pretty sure it's the first 4. So let's go ahead, line up the first 4. 4. And item list will have to be skipped. So program it ourselves. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. I mean, we can use the example here, but I do believe it's dated. If here at all. Doesn't even look like it's here anymore. Okay. I'm just going to go with this, and then we have to manually set our list. We can do that with subcontrols here. I'm not sure it's going to translate. Actually, we just plug it in here, and we'll go with the first 4 again. It goes in order saw, sine, saw, ramp, triangle. Sine, saw, ramp, triangle. Sine, saw, ramp, triangle. And then we have just these 4 being selected. Excuse me. We do not connect item list to item lists, otherwise it'll generate a completely different, it'll generate those extra values which we don't want. So let's go ahead and plug this in here. And now we'll only have these 4 options, and they will hopefully translate properly. I imagine they will. I feel like that was done right. Okay. So if we wanted to skip one, we'd, for instance, I'm not really sure. It's not something to consider right now. It's maybe something for more competent documentation. As well, we have them lined up. So let's move on to the next page here. The patch memory list 2 module converts the list input into a GUI list value. The list is then converted to Boolean values. Recall GUI plugs bidirectional data flow. The list to bools module converts the Boolean values back to the list plug, but addresses only options linked to it. If desired, rename the options by opening the properties window of the list to bools module and changing the labels. The GUI list output connects to a drop-down list module, which is the actual GUI control feature. We renamed the module in this example prefab list entry 2. So there is another version of the list. So with that done, I can continue along. To add a left and right arrow similar to those found in the controls list entry 2, simply copy the bitmap image float to bool and increment 2 module from the prefab and connect the increment 2 module to the list to bools module plug list plug. Once you have configured the controls containers panel, the arrows let you quickly change the options. We connected a text entry 2 module to the name plug of the patch memory list 2 to show a label for the list entry. If you wish, open the properties window and select read-only mode to make the label readable only. The style option, as determined by the current skin's global text by the skin's global.txt settings, changes the text appearance. Figure 2.54 illustrates the structure. The Flanger 2.sc1 prefab uses this waveform selector. So it's not going to be able to be done for the most part like this. We can imitate what it's saying to do. So instead of this sort of system, it wants a, let's get rid of this, it wants a text entry. So that would be here, text entry, and then we set it to, well, it's supposed to be read-only, but I guess that's not a thing. It'll be editable, right? Writable. So we'll turn that off. And then it comes from, I do believe, here. We will go conversion list to text. And then we take the choice integer in the list items text, and we connect that to the text module here. And now it wants me to use the image value here, image 2, and I have to dig out the arrows, which are in C, users, public documents, synthetic projects, skins, and default. And then we have them right there. So we want 2, we want one for the left, one for the right. In fact, I could probably just grab this one, as it's readily available here. Don't have to do any more digging. Now these are to be connected to a module called increment here. I do believe it's under conversion. No, it's not there. It must be here. Increment 3. Yes. So we want to connect this choice to our bool to integer, so it limits just to these three. If we connected it directly to the patch list, it would scroll through the other choices. So we don't want to use anything for item list. However, we do have a range up here. We want to go 0 to, I believe 3, as we have 3 options. It's a range. It's a sort of a command code range, 0 to 3. And if I'm correct, it's 0 to 3, right? No, we can't. Remember, it's 4 and 0 counts. So increments would be the forward arrow, and decrement would be the back arrow, right? So we're going to flip these around here, and it should work. In fact, it does. I'm not even 100% sure that I'm supposed to be using the extra 2 there. And we do want to make sure wrap is enabled, otherwise we'll hit the last entry and then it won't come back to the beginning. That's kind of what range does as well. All right, so that's running. Let's get that in better shape here. We want to look for our biggest value, which looks like triangle. And we'll shrink it down a bit. I imagine the prefab later is going to give us a specific size. For now, we just want it big enough to fit. And I'm not sure where the other arrow was. There it is. Let's put them kind of beside it. Interesting enough there, it's a little bigger, which is a little annoying. Yeah, there's no getting around it. It'll have to be customized. So we'll just squeeze everything in here. That's too much of a squeeze, so we'll space things out then. Pull this up one. We don't need that much space. And down one. And we'll size it up a little later. Yeah, we still don't have the actual LFO, right? So, oh, we do. Okay, so let's get that lined up as this is part 2, right? So we'll get that over here, and this is our LFO. Not a lot of space going on. Let's make some space here by dropping this down. And we'll bring this up. So I imagine Flanger 1 doesn't actually do anything. It's stuck to its waveform. Right? So again, I said I was going to line these up a bit better. We can do that now. So we'll go turn off snap to grid, and then we'll just grab this and open it 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And looking at it, it's still not in line. Slide up, and then we'll tighten these up. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Just until it touches. And we'll just leave it at that. Right. So back to the book. This is Finder 2, in fact. I'm going to save that. Page down. Making modulation more variable. The lowest modulation value in the previous prefab is 0 volts. Some users may hanker for different modulation settings. Fulfill their wishes by adding a constant voltage to delays modulation plug. Proceed with caution. The 2 voltage sum may not exceed the modulation plug's 10 volt threshold. So if you choose 5 volts as the depth and min slider's upper limit and double the delay 2's max delay time, pulling the min slider down to 0 yields the same results. But the modulation plug's value will not exceed 10 volts even with the min slider pulled all the way up, ensuring the plug remains stable at all settings. So figure 2.55 variable minimum delay time, Flanger 3.SC1. We see we have, I imagine there's a new control somewhere. No. Min. Yeah, we do. So min goes into, I'm not sure. In fact, I should be checking these values, so I'm going to go ahead and open the old SynthEdit 1.1. I'm just going to go save as, so we can grab the directory they're in. And then open. We'll drop that directory back in here. want delay effects, I do believe. Delay mod. Okay, and this is Flanger 3. Let's go Flanger 3. So it's pretty much the same thing over and over. There's no point in going back and setting ranges. However, now we want to start looking at setting our ranges. So automation looks like -10 to 0.459. And that's for rate. So we're going to go to rate here. We want a low of 0.425 and a high of -0.59 with a default of -655, -1.655 rather. And then our phase is a range 0 to 10, which it already is. Depth 0 to 5, so we want a depth of 0 to 5, max 5, with a default of 0, or 1.55, and phase is 5. Min is high of 5. And that connects where to modulation. Again, that's 0 to 5, and this is called min. And then we have feedback, which is -10 to 10. And dry wet, -5 to 5. Which I do believe is already set, yes. Okay. So min's in here, we'll just kind of put it there, I guess, or down here. Still need the, or rather I need the grid back. Get some cleaner schematics or workflow. So this is Flanger 3. Go ahead and save as Flanger 3. This is pretty much a build here. However, I guess we do need to line up that min control. So we're going to tighten things up. Did I lose my min default? I don't think I even set it, so that's supposed to be 0. And these look out of order, so let's actually move this over here. I'll put min here. I'm liking that more. More about flangers. Flanger modules may produce a loud low-frequency hum at high feedback levels. Squeeze in a high-pass filter after the delay lines to fix this problem. If the effect tone is too trenchant, tame a delay signal's top end with a low-pass filter. Switch the phase of the delayed signal using the inverter module to conjure different sounds. Tweaking the GUI. So far, we've used mostly standard slider modules to control parameters. The following example looks at how to fine-tune knobs and sliders readouts using subcontrol modules. Figure 2.56 shows the outcome. So figure 2.56, a sexier GUI with a more sophisticated readout. Flanger 4.se1. So we see a picture of all of the knobs and using the knob subcontrols. We also have percentages and milliseconds and hertz. And the waveform no longer has arrows, it looks like. The arrows are cleaner. Yeah, they're there. They're just cleaner. Is that how it looks on... I'm not sure. No, it doesn't look like that. I wonder how they got the arrows clean like that. Okay. The knob base on the knob prefab control knobs depicted in figure 2.54. The heart of the prefab is the patch memory float module. The patch memory module's min-max values plugs define the knob's low and high limits. The animation position plug connects to bitmap image modules providing the knob view. The actual value goes to two plugs, a GUI float value plug on the left and a float value out plug on the right. The prefab employs a float value out plug to send the signal to a float at 2 volts. Insert conversion float to volts module, which converts the value to voltage. The text entry to the module merely brandishes the label. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and are we switching everything? Figure 2.57, a knob sporting subcontrols. We have 2 bitmap images. One is a knob outside, one is a knob inside. Patch memory float is connected to almost everything. We have a tinted bitmap, which is connected to nothing, a text entry, which says knob, float values, that's going out. We also have high and low values connected to the patch memory float, which I don't believe we have anymore. We can do that. I don't believe we can do that anymore. We do have a float limiter. Yeah, we don't have a high and low value anymore. Interesting. Use the patch memory's GUI float value pin to show readouts. Figure 2.9 illustrates the depth knob structure. This setup first scales the value plug, then converts it to text for display. The knob's range is 0 to 5 volts or 0 to 10 milliseconds. Use a float scaler. Insert subcontrol's float scaler module to scale the knob. The rule for scaling is value out equals value in times multiply by add plus add. This module is bidirectional with the inverse function being value in equals value out less add over multiply by. And figure 2.58 shows a knob. It says depth and it has the fancy knob with 4.2 milliseconds. We are using the inverse option to multiply the value out by 2. Go to the float scaler properties window and enter the inverse of 2, 0.5 for the multiply by plug. The value in plug's range is thus 0 to 10. A text to float module converts these values to text displayed by text entry 2 module. Don't forget the decimal places. Another text entry 2 module shows the unit of measure. You need a patch memory text module to store the text plug's value, which is now milliseconds. Then arrange labels and read out on the control containers panel as depicted in figure 2.58. If necessary, disable edit snap to grid to enable more precise positioning. All right, it continues on. Figure 2.59, the depth knob structure. So let's go ahead. What are we looking at here? So it says to do all this stuff, but I'm trying to figure out which control that is. Milliseconds, depth. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and look at this one. Flanger 3. No. Load cancel. Created by a newer version, 1.3. Yeah, 1.1. That's weird. I don't know how they have the max min value here. We can still accomplish the same thing. I do believe the knob prefab is still in here under knob, right? So we still have this stuff. And all that's really extra asking for is, well, let's set the name here. I'm going to unlock it first. It appears to be locked. Right click, more, locked, and this is coming from name. No, it's its own thing, standalone. Okay, so this is depth. All right, and then we have a text readout. So let's go ahead, subcontrols conversion. And this is float to text. many decimal places? It's like 2. Then we'll go text entry somewhere here. And it looks like they're using a different style type here. So let's go ahead and we can't get Flanger 3, which is interesting. I don't have version 1.3 either. I don't know why it's asking me to load in there. So, try one more time. Well, let me check 2. I doubt there's anything happening in 2. Why is it saying even 2? Didn't I just have 2 open? What? Why is it saying everything's made in 1.3? Okay, let's try that again. Let's go with, oh, because I'm in the wrong. Well, why 1.3 is, aren't I using 1.4? Okay, so we're on Flanger 3 now. But doesn't it say that that's... Flanger 4, so it must be still list save as, and then we just want this. Yeah, there it is. Copy, cancel, and open. I'm just going to drop that in there. And Flanger 4. So we now have all these interesting knobs here. I'm going to dive into depth first. So let's go ahead and look for depth, which is here. And we're just going to unlock it. We have to open it first. And we'll see what we're looking at here. So we have a float scalar coming out of the float. Text to float. How many decimal places? I'm wondering. So let's go properties. Decimal places 2. Okay, so let's start with that. Float to text. This is coming from, do I need any other conversion? Float scalar. Okay, so we want conversion and float scalar. However, usually when we're doing stuff like this, we want our output to read the same thing as the patch memory float. Because if it doesn't, then say your system readout or whatever, your automation isn't going to be the same readout. So the automation here is 0 to 5. And then it translates itself chopping it in half, so it only goes to 2.5. So if we go depth here, we got 0 to 10. Okay, so I don't understand. Is it multiplying? It must be multiplying. Multiply by, no, it's chopping in half, but it's still making it up to 10. 5. I don't understand. Am I in the right one? Zero to 10. And 0 to 5. 10. Yeah, I'm not understanding what's going on here. Am I missing a conversion somewhere? And we just have a text entry saying MS. And another one saying depth. Right. Multiply by half. What happens if it goes 2? What is it going to be, 20? 2.5. I think because it's in reverse. Either way, we want the readout to be exact. So we want this to read up to 10. So we're trying to change this back to 0.5. So yeah, it's working backwards. I'm not sure that's going to happen here. We'll give it a shot. Yeah, no, that can't happen. Yeah, see, the pins are on this side, right? Okay, so we want this to go to 10, which is fine. However, we want to chop it in half. So we're going to do that by multiplying this end. And our automation will still read. Oh, we can't do that because this is, yeah, we need the other float scalar if there is one. Float function, I don't see it. So that's not a thing. We can now, however, use the float function. Or we can just use a regular multiply module under math, multiply, and then value here and there. This can go away, and then we multiply this. What we want is half of that, right? So 0.5, and now it's putting itself 0.5 out. However, we're getting a readout still of 10, which we want. And then we want to translate that to GUI, to readouts. And 2 decimal places here. And now we will have a readout. 0 to 10. Except we can't control that right now, I guess. There we go. So from there, we want a text entry. Most cases, I won't use the name value because when it comes to the parameter name, it will, if there's lots of controls and stuff, it won't be able to translate property. Like we'll see in the list where it says name for this parameter is depth, but perhaps there's more than one depth, so we won't know which depth exactly that is. However, in this case, there's so little controls that that doesn't really matter. So we're just going to use the float to name our text entry like it does here. And then we just want another text entry for milliseconds label. And we need a patch memory text. And it can be name or value, preferably value. And we want to ignore program change and private. Ignore program change doesn't really do anything for VST3. Our value is MS. Now let's look at the style used here. So I do believe this is under properties, style, heading 3. Let's go ahead and use heading 3 for all of these styles. And this is in fact not writable. Otherwise, the end user can change the names of the controls and they won't really do anything. Okay, so now we'll get everything sort of lined up on the grid here. I do believe that, why do I have 2 depths? Okay, so this one, also why is that connected there? That's fine, whatever. This one's going to replace that one and we will connect these again. That's just connected for when you want to do MIDI link. It looks like everything has been MIDI linked. So I guess we might as well just continue to MIDI link everything. So if we right click anywhere, we'll be able to link MIDI. All right, getting into here, let's do some lining up. This goes on top, I do believe. Why does it feel like everything is so squished in the corner? Make some room. Let's move this down just until it disappears and give it one small amount of spacing. We do want things sort of consistent over here, however. So, like I said, let's make some space here. I don't know why it's crammed in the corner. It's an older version. Okay, so we'll get it lined up. And then we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Perhaps 12 would be enough. So 16, 15, 14, 13, 12. And then we're going to line this stuff up. Looks like it's all one piece, but it's really not. So we'll go 1, 2. Looks okay. However, we are bumping into the depth here. So let's bring it down 1. And again, we want to copy exactly up on top. So looks like it's already done. However, we will subtract a few here. Let's just get it snapped to grid. 1, 2, just enough to fit milliseconds. And they're sort of overlapping, which is fine. I suppose it probably could just totally overlap, right? And just got to make sure that milliseconds is in the back. So let's go arrange, move to back. Now we can always get at that control. And that's done. So we'll go just resize it for reference. Checking it. One more. And one more. Okay. That's a control. It does feel kind of lopsided though. What does this one look like? It's centered. All right, so let's get it centered. In order to do that, I guess we're just gonna wiggle things around until it looks centered. I mean, that's how it sort of looks here, right? Yeah. The 0 starts over here. So perhaps we can come in 1. Something like that. And milliseconds trails all the way out. However, not that far out. So about something like that. All right, that looks about right comparatively. Now we can pull depth. First, I'm going to make sure I'm connecting it to the right place. So we're just going to go ahead and do that, like that, delete that, and we now have a depth knob. Of course, everything's horizontal. I could just get it out of the way for a second. And we'll pull in everything and compare. This one seems quite a bit bigger. It must be zoomed in. No, it's just quite a bit bigger. Was I supposed to use the other knob? Knob small? No. There's nothing in the middle. It must just be a drawing difference. So we'll get rid of the small knob here. And we'll start building our other knobs. So we do have another millisecond here. 0 to 10 again. So let's go into min. And we'll see what it's scaling by here. I gotta unlock it. And automation doesn't do anything. It's actually properties. So I gotta remember this is in reverse. So same thing again. And our range here, 0.5 again. So yeah, let's chop it in half. So we're gonna go and copy this over. And then from our properties area here, we can just rename it here. And this is min. And it's already set up. So don't really have to do anything. Just gonna find where min plugs in, connect them. And that can go. Now we have, start on this side, rate, which goes from, it looks stalled. Doesn't look like it has any range. It's just always 1.32. Perhaps I have to activate the system before it'll kick in. However, I can look at the patch memory float. But is it really just, no, I didn't think so. I don't know why it's not responding. So let's get another knob happening. And we'll get the range in there low. and high. And we want to make sure we hit enter here. And then our unit of measurement is HZ. So we're just going to go to this one, MS here, and type HZ. And we'll look at some of the internal conversion just to make sure that there's nothing else happening really. And it's unlocked already. And we have volts to hertz. And that's just for the looking like patch memory float. However, I do believe that's just for the readouts. In this case, we actually can translate volts to hertz because we have a formula to do that. However, we can't use that as a, say an automatable control because it can't keep up. Perhaps in the past I would have been able to use it. I didn't even consider volts to hertz. No, it was volts to decibels, right? And we do actually have a conversion of volts to hertz as well. So, not sure why we really need that though. Rates. What is the setting here? Octave to 1 volt per octave. So that's normal. We want hertz to volts. Okay, so hertz. But why exactly? Oh, it's not responding because it's, yeah, okay, so let's get the system running. That's why it's not responding. But it only really goes up to 10 hertz. So like I said, why convert from 0.01 when I can just use a converter here? So we're going to change the range. We have a low value of 0.01 and a high value of 10. And then we want conversion. And we want unit converter volts. Let's check. No, that's kilohertz. We just want hertz, which should be a float. So we'll float in, and we want value out. And this is hertz to octave. Okay, and then from there we can have 0.01 as our low value. And we don't really need to do any more conversion than that. Everything's good. As I said, these are also rotary. Yeah. We're going to change that now because rotary is horrible. We can we? Is there no response? Image 2. Do we have a new image? Do I really have to reload everything? No, image 2. Except this one has most response. Okay, so what I can do probably is just grab this, hopefully, and drop it in here. Yeah, okay. So we want to copy that again. Grab this again, and I got to do that for all the knobs. And then I almost want to just replace this. That's a lot of connecting. Why is the mouse down running? Whatever, I suppose. Let's just keep things normal. Why mouse down? We don't need mouse down. No, we don't need mouse down. I don't know why that's selected, and I want this not to be rotary, so we want horizontal, or is it vertical? I do believe it's vertical, right? Okay. Otherwise, if it's rotary, then it'll confuse people, and that's important. And that's done. Okay, and then animation and menu items. And this doesn't really move, so it's fine. Again, we want vertical. Okay, and of course everything is all over the place. Let's get in here and line things back up. All right. Oops. Yeah, that's way more expected because rotary kind of does this weird thing where you have to kind of circle around the knob, whereas up and down just doesn't do anything. It's confusing. So yeah, maybe easier. No, it'll just be easier just to grab them and plug them manually. And then I can just copy that one and rebuild min. So paste. And doing connections. There's lots of stuff for me to do as far as YouTube wise. Besides thumbnails, I have to go in and make chapters. That will help sort of get people to jump around past situations like this. So that's done. And then I line it up. And then I can just copy it. It's called min. To modulation. As well, I might as well check these values now. So the delay values here, 0.01, and interpolate audio. What's the high value say? Okay, I just want to double check that I wasn't missing anything. Okay, so these need to be 0.1, and we want to interpolate again, same thing. Okay, now we're pretty much up to speed. This needs to be min. As well, everything else is okay. That's how we respond to things, right? Even when they are knobs. Oops, not a button. It's up and down. Yes. Not left and right, and not rotary. It's up and down. Or left and right. Up and down. Up and down. Even these seem rotary. I think they are rotary. I think pretty sure it's up and down. Okay, so continuing along. Next one in the list is phase. So this is actually doing 180. It's actually a phase measure. In order to get to that, I do believe we multiply it by 4s. I'm going to unlock it. And 5s, so 0.0555. However, that's not going to be going to the readout that's going to be actually out, right? So it's 0 and 4 5 5s. 1 2 1 1 2 3 4. Should be suffice. Yeah, looks like 5 5s. And so that's rearranging itself. It doesn't show it here, right? It doesn't have a degrees. It does have a decimal point, so that must be 1 decimal point. Yes. So change that just to 1 decimal point. It would hurt. How many? Yeah, we have 2 and 2, 2, and 1. And however, I'm going to open up character map, and we're going to grab a decibel, or a degree symbol, stick in there. So it's a little more holistic. Take a look at how that looks. And this is phase. it's way off. So this has been readjusted, right? It's centered. So we can go ahead and I can go ahead and do my own thing here as far as getting that a little more centered. Perhaps we'll just do this. All right. And then I'm just going to throw this to the back for a second whilst I get this guy lined up. And so in the center, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Come over 1, 2, 3, 4. Because we're going to have 180 in here, right? So let's see how that looks as far as all the way up to 180. Yeah, it looks fine. I mean, it's a little loose, but so are these. So we'll just leave that there. It's only supposed to be displaying 1. I don't know why it's back to 2 here. I guess I just got to refresh this screen. And then I almost want to bring it in one more. But like I said, these are quite loose, so let's just leave it. Yeah, it seems like it would be in the middle of milliseconds if it were in the same spot or at the end. Not gonna worry about it more than that. Next up we have feedback, which is a percentage. So let's go ahead and open that up and unlock it. Our math is multiplied by 1. Okay, and our range is 10. Okay, so what we're doing is we're chopping 100 down to 10. And this is percentage, so we're just going to go ahead and keep this one because of that symbol. We're going to insert percent. How does that look as far as its alignment? These are pushed more to the left, and then kind of percent is a little more in the middle. Looks like we're also going in negatives. Okay. So we're going negative 100 to plus 100. And I think that might have been the wrong one, no? No. Okay, so we're good. And that's 2 decimal places, just 1. Just 1. That percentage symbol is quite tight to it. Let's go ahead and pull that in a bit, I guess. Pull it in by 1. Negative's hugging it too much. So then we'll pull it out by 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. My default gobo.txt is a little different too. Sizing is a little different. So if someone is following the documentation attempting to recreate the project, the text font might look a little different. All right, and this is called feedback. And last we have dry wets, 0 to 100%. So I imagine we can just reuse this one and do the rename 0 and dry /wet. As well, I do believe I have to rescale feedback here. So this needs to be 0.01. And that'll give us from 100 to 10, right? So if we have 100 and we times 0.01, we'll end up with 1. So maybe it's just 1. So 100 times 0.1 is 10. Okay. So let's drop a 0 out of there. As well, same here. 0.1. All right, things are ready to be plugged in. So phase goes to phase mod. And now this one can be dropped. Depth, modulation. And we also have, this is called rate. And that goes to pitch. pulled. Let's give it a bit of room here. In fact, we can probably containerize this stuff. More containerize, and let's go controls on module. Up here, right here, to get things a little more tidy. And feedback goes to feedback. Drop this one, and dry wet goes to mix. In fact, I don't think I plugged in dry yet. Oh yeah, I did. Okay. And we can just stack things a little better. So it's less drawing. All right. So just some alignment here. I do believe we start with rate. That's a little tight. Then depth. How tight do we want these to each other? Let's just leave them super loose right now. Let's just look, oh man, they're right hugging each other. Eh? So rate, min, depth. So rate, min, give it one space, depth. They're just like right beside each other. That's how it is on the other one. They're just like right there. It's so close together. But I guess their units of measure are kind of holding them apart, right? I almost want to squeeze the readouts together. Let's get this running again so I can get a good unit measurement. It's the same, pretty much the same. Okay, and then phase. And feedback. Dry wet. And of course the waveform, which I don't even know where it is. Perhaps controls on parent is what we're missing here. And a title, right? We're missing a title. How does that look here? Okay, so it's pretty much the same as this. So we're just going to go ahead and grab that. Also on here. And again, we're going to use name. And this is waveform. Another thing about using its own dedicated patch memory text is that you can have internal parameters say like oscillator waveform, whereas the readout or description just says waveform. And this should hopefully hold together. Okay, let's get this centered. Go 1, 2, 3, 4. Just cause now this sits at the end. Something like that. So how did they get their triangles transparent? All right, because in their picture, their triangles are transparent. And even in my version here, I still don't have transparency. So what to do? We can do our own thing, I suppose, and figure out how to get some transparent arrows. Perhaps they are inside here. Our drop-down is transparent, but our arrows aren't. They're PNG. Strange. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and open these in GIMP. And we're going to give them some transparency. But while GIMP opens, because it takes a lifetime to open, we're just going to move on here. What is left? We can do some more styling with the name here. This can also be, oops. This can also be heading 3. I'm not sure if color to transparency is going to work here. Imagine it might. Okay, so let's go select by color. I think that might be better. Just select by color. Delete. Okay. Go ahead, save. No, we gotta export. File, overwrite. And then we'll get the second one happening. Not sure it's gonna open like that. Oh, it does. Okay. Again, Control Shift J. Select by color. Delete. And file export as our overwrite. That's done. I can get out of GIMP now. And not sure it's not going to affect it right now because it has to be reloaded, right? All right. Even looking at it like this, oh, it is. It's updated. Okay. So again, we got that funny blue. Everything's blue, so it's hard to see where they are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get them lined up a bit better. We'll bring them up a bit. Let's go ahead and go right-click this bar. Well, we can't go to structure. How do I get to the panel? Panel edit. Okay. And we'll just bring them up a little bit so they line up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it looks like it's off by 1. Down 1. There. That looks about even. Yeah, looks good. And then once we go to, say, triangle, it fits within arrows, right? I could tighten it up more, but no, I don't want to. The down one, it's a little more in line. And of course, everything is pretty much hugging each other, so let's put it right there. And then let's get things a little more lined up here, a little more in line. Let's push this all the way to the end. And that can stay there. Let's go over here. Maybe we'll get it centered somewhere right in the center. It's not center. I think we're off by 1 on the grid. Let's get everything moved over 1 and pull this down because I'm pretty sure this is the right side. Okay, now it's centered. And now we want to bring this in 1 and these over. There. It's quite tight. This over. This up. And yeah, that's how it looks after all that. Now let's look at our default here. No, I'm pretty sure I accidentally moved some of this stuff. So we're going to go to close and not save. And then just reopen it and we'll see what our defaults are. 1.32. 4.8. 4.62. 180. 56.3. 100% and triangle. Okay. So this is Flanger 4, I believe. Yes. File, save as. And call this Flanger 4. All right, so now we can continue reading. Use the patch memory's GUI float value pin to show readouts. Figure 2.9 illustrates the depth knob structure. This setup first scales the value plug, then converts it to text for display. The knob's range is 0 to 5 volts are 10 milliseconds. Use float scaler. Insert subcontrols float scaler module to scale the knob. The rule for scaling. Yeah, I've already read all this, so let's continue along. So we have more figure 2.9, the depths knob structure. These are pretty much irrelevant as a lot of them are outdated, right? Like I said, the float scaling is reversed because the pins are on the other side. So yeah, just not even going to describe that. It'd probably just be detrimental. Same goes for the other knobs in the prefab. Scale them, then display the GUI float pin. The rate is the sole exception. It uses a third-party module to convert volts to frequency. Figure 2.6 outlines the structure. KDL volts to hertz converts the output voltage to hertz. We use the onboard or vanilla 1.4 module to do that. Insert convert volts to float, then converts the hertz value to float, and the patch memory float out subcontrols converts it to GUI float. This subcontrol provides the value in GUI float plug format for conversion to text and display. The unit may connect to the patch memory float out module's name plug. Once you configure the readout, it shows the LFO's exact frequency in hertz. So figure 2.6 structure of the rate knob. Again, we don't want to be referencing that because I did a different one. I used the one included volts to hertz and go to files Flanger for. So with that built, I won't be building a chorus for this session. I'm going to export the flanger and we'll get a little taste of it. So we're just going to call this flanger. And again, flanger, SCFL. And I'm going to use okay. Save file first. Yes. FL Studio. Okay. I think it might have been already open. I'm not sure. Refresh plugin list here. Of course, that's going to take a moment. Did this build? It must have built so fast, I just didn't even notice. Right? Yeah. Okay. And this is going to take a couple years to scan. So close this, I suppose. Head over here. Not doing anything. And we'll just sit and wait. I'll just throw up the BRB. Okay, so we can get something happening. Flanger, right? What do we want to use our flanger on? Generally, the first thing that comes to mind for me, of course, as a guitarist, is guitar. So we're going to get a sampler, and I don't really have much else going on for samples. Just independence. I mean, I have other libraries. I could use FL Studio's libraries, but independence, it just sounds so good. Electric guitars, alternative. Let's go with one of these 70s. Let's go with the 60s, 70s guy. Turn off. Oh, there's no effects. And I can't hear anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on my headphones as usual. And then get that to run out the stream here. Out speaker. I gotta get the headphones on first. I do believe when I condition the headphones, it doesn't translate to the stream, so I'm going to go ahead and condition my headphones. Under mixing, I use Morphit, demo. These are JBL. Quantum 100. Turn off the limiter, and just for some sound. Okay, so we got this interesting thing here, and that's the wrong channel. headphone here somewhere. Headphone. Okay. Not really getting any sound. Oh yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it sure does bring a lot to the table for stereo imaging. Let's go E minor. Mess around a bit with the rate here. I'm just going to record something. Let's slow this down and we'll check the riff generator, see if it feels like doing anything for us today. Some chords. Oh, let's pass some 1, 2, and 3. No, it's not giving us anything today. So we'll just go ahead and record something, 1 metronome. Whatever, just anything. Right, and then I'm going to go ahead and quantize that. So we'll go quantize somewhere. Whoa. In fact, maybe we'll just go step and Q. Okay. And just have to do a little bit of fixing here. Quite a bit of fixing, I suppose. And this one these two can both come in a little bit. And then we'll throw it in the strummer. Metronome off. A little loud for me. Now I can fiddle with these knobs a bit. That's coming through, right? Way out there now, man. Why am I not getting a dry signal? What's going on there? I don't think it's adjusted, right? So the dry comes out, it comes out, 0 to, yeah, it's not adjusted. Okay, so this, in fact, it's going from 0 to 10, but it needs to be knocked down 5. Right? So let's go -5 here. Here it'd be -50. Let's put -5 here. Yeah, -5. Okay, and then that'll get it in line with the X mix. So go ahead and save that again, build that again. However, I got to close this one. It's always good to debug a bit. Yeah, it's done. I'm always so used to waiting for it. Okay, so yeah, here we go again. Get some dry. Nice. Quite a bit different, almost a little chorusy. I always imagine like a flanger being a slow moving, or flanger being a slow moving. It's phaser. That's what I'm thinking of. So you can hear how take this off. You can hear how the comb filter created by the delay is notching. So that, I imagine that's what delay is doing. It's moving the phase a little bit so that it's phase canceling, and that's making a notch filter. I'm not 100% sure there. Sure though, I'm not, have a master's in acoustic science. Check out my website at jwpsite.com for my social links, latest news and updates, and public offerings. If you'd like to help support what I do, check out my Patreon, JWP Patreon. That's with 2 P's. There's also some exclusive content there, including the prefabs from these specific of the book, or my JWP fund at GoFundMe, JWP Fund. If you're watching this on YouTube, a like, subscribe, and comment are appreciated. Thanks for watching. Until next time.